The royal gardens of Lumeria bloomed with crystal flowers that sang in the wind. Princess Ada walked among them one last time, her white dress flowing behind her like starlight. The three moons hung low in the purple sky, and she couldn't help but wonder if this would be the last sunset she would ever see. "Your Highness." The voice belonged to lead scientist Tom, his usually calm face lined with worry. "The calculations are confirmed. We have less than 2 days before the gamma-ray burst reaches our system." Ada nodded, her hand touching the smooth trunk of a light tree. Its branches glowed with stored sunlight, casting soft shadows on her face. "How many ships managed to leave?" "Nearly 70% of our people have evacuated. The rest are either in deep shelters or preparing for their departure tonight." Tom hesitated, then added, "The stasis chamber is ready for you, Princess." The words hung heavy in the air. Ada had argued against this plan for days, wanting to leave with her people. But the royal council had been clear. The princess, the last of the ancient bloodline, had to be preserved. Their civilization's knowledge, history, and future were encoded in her DNA, a legacy of genetic memory passed down through generations of rulers. "Show me," she said simply. Tom led her through the crystal halls of the palace. Their footsteps echoed off walls that had stood for 10,000 years. Paintings of her ancestors watched their passage, their eyes seeming to follow the last princess of their line. Deep below the palace, past layers of security that read their genetic signatures, they entered the heart chamber. The stasis pod stood in the center, a marvel of Lumerian engineering. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, maintained at near absolute zero by power cores that could run for 1,000 years. "The pod will keep you safe," Tom explained, his voice steady despite his obvious emotion. "When the radiation passes, it will begin scanning for compatible life forms that could safely wake you. The security systems will protect you until then." Ada touched the cold surface of the pod. "And if no one comes, someone will come." Tom's voice carried a certainty he couldn't possibly feel. "The universe is vast, but life finds a way. We've seen the primitive civilizations emerging on nearby worlds. Perhaps one of them will reach the stars and find you." The princess looked at the small group gathered in the chamber, her most trusted advisors and the scientific team. They would be leaving on the last ships, scattering among the stars like seeds in the wind. "Our people will lose so much," she whispered. "But they will survive," Tom reminded her. "And when the time is right, you will help them remember." Warning lights flashed through the palace. The gamma-ray burst was approaching faster than expected. They had minutes, not hours. Ada straightened her spine, every inch the royal her people needed her to be. "Begin the sequence." The pod opened like a flower greeting the dawn. As Ada lay down, she felt the cold embrace of the stasis field beginning to take hold. The metal flowed around her, forming a perfect seal. "The pod systems will maintain your neural patterns." Tom's voice came through the speakers, growing distant. "Your dreams will keep your mind active, processing and preserving our history until you wake." Ada wanted to respond, to say goodbye, but the stasis field was already taking hold. Her consciousness began to fade, but not before she saw the tears in Tom's eyes or heard his final words. "Sleep well, Princess. May the future be kind to you." The world outside her pod erupted in light as the gamma-ray burst reached their world. But Ada was already deep in stasis, her mind floating in dreams of crystal gardens and singing flowers. The security systems activated, sealing the chamber and engaging protective fields that would last centuries. As radiation scorched the surface of Lumeria, turning its beautiful crystal cities to ash, Princess Ada slept. She dreamed of her people finding new homes among the stars, of civilizations yet to be born, and of the day someone would find her chamber and wake her to a changed universe. In the depths of her frozen sleep, she couldn't know that it would take 300 years before a species called humans would reach for the stars and find her world. She couldn't know that her rescuer would come from a planet her people had once observed and deemed too primitive to contact. But for now she slept, and she dreamed, while the galaxy turned and new stories waited to be born. Marcus Reed wiped the sweat from his forehead as he studied the strange markings on the underground tunnel walls. His light stick cast a soft blue glow that made the crystal-like surface shimmer. 300 years of radiation damage hadn't destroyed these walls. They were built to last. Dr. Reed. His assistant Ben's voice echoed through the comm system. You need to see this. Chamber ahead, about 50 meters. Marcus adjusted his radiation suit and moved forward carefully. The exploration team had spent 6 months studying this dead world, finding only ruins and mysteries. But something about this underground complex was different. The power readings were faint but steady, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. The chamber entrance was blocked by a door that looked like flowing metal frozen in time. As Marcus approached, tiny lights flickered across its surface. He held his breath, remembering how other ruins had tried to kill them with ancient defense systems. Energy spike, Ben reported, checking his scanner. But it's scanning us. Different from the other ruins. Marcus touched the door's surface. To his surprise, it felt warm. Patterns of light danced under his fingers, and a soft hum filled the air. Then, without warning, the door simply melted away. That's new, he whispered, shining his light into the chamber. The beam reflected off walls that seemed to be made of pure crystal, creating a web of light that illuminated the entire room. But it was what stood in the center that made his heart skip a beat. A pod, about the size of a small bed, hovered slightly above the floor. Unlike the decay they'd found everywhere else, it looked brand new, its surface rippling like quicksilver. Soft blue light pulsed from within, keeping time with what could only be a heartbeat. Ben, get the full team down here. And contact the ship. We're going to need the heavy scanning equipment. Marcus approached the pod slowly, his trained eyes taking in every detail. This wasn't just another artifact. This was something alive. The next 12 hours were a blur of activity. The team set up their equipment, running every scan they could think of. The pod's security systems, instead of attacking them like the ruins above, seemed to be studying them back. Look at this, Emma, their tech specialist, called out. She pointed to her screen where strange symbols flowed like water. The system is learning our language. It's going through our ship's database. Marcus watched in amazement as English words began appearing on the pod's surface. They formed and reformed, like the system was practicing. Finally, a clear message appeared. Genetic compatibility confirmed. Awakening sequence available. Authorization required. It's not just a stasis pod, Marcus realized, his voice filled with awe. It's a rescue pod. It was waiting for someone who could safely wake whoever is inside. The scans had already shown them what lay within, a humanoid figure, perfectly preserved. But now they could see more. Data streamed across their screens, telling a story of a civilization that had seen death coming and planned for survival. Dr. Reed, Ben said quietly, according to these readings, she's been in there for 300 years, since the gamma ray burst that killed this world. And she's still alive. Marcus looked at his team's faces, seeing his own mix of excitement and fear reflected back. They had protocols for first contact situations, but nothing that covered waking up a princess who had slept through centuries while her world died around her. Begin wake-up preparations, he ordered. Full medical team on standby. We do this by the book. As they worked, Marcus couldn't help but stare at the pod. Inside, someone from an advanced civilization slept, preserved by technology that made humanity's best efforts look like child's play. Someone who had lost everything but still might have a future. The pod's surface rippled again, displaying one last message. Thank you for finding me. Marcus touched the warm metal surface gently. You're welcome, he whispered, knowing that soon he would meet someone who had seen the stars before humanity had even dreamed of reaching them. We're going to help you wake up to a whole new universe. Above them, through layers of rock and ruins, the radiation-scarred surface of the dead world slowly turned beneath alien stars. But here, deep underground, something wonderful was about to begin. The medical bay hummed with activity as the stasis pod floated in the center, connected to the ship's systems by a web of sensors. Marcus watched the final preparations through the observation window, his heart pounding. They had spent 3 days just moving the pod from the underground chamber to their ship, treating it as carefully as a soap bubble that might burst at any moment. Final checks complete, Emma announced, her fingers dancing over the control panel. The pod systems are integrating with ours. It's like they're teaching our computers how to help. The pod's surface rippled with waves of soft blue light. Its ancient systems had readily accepted their help, almost eagerly sharing information about its occupants' vital signs. The princess inside was dreaming. They could see that much from the neural patterns. "Begin wake-up sequence," Marcus ordered. The medical team stood ready with equipment they hoped would be compatible with alien biology. The pod had helped them understand enough to know that its occupant was remarkably similar to humans in basic structure, if not in capability. The room temperature dropped as the pod began its work. Layers of stasis field peeled away like petals of a metal flower opening to morning sun. Everyone held their breath as they got their first clear look at the princess. She looked almost human. Her skin had a faint pearlescent sheen, and her hair seemed to catch light that wasn't there, but otherwise she could have passed for a young woman in her 20s. Her eyes moved beneath closed lids, following dreams 3 centuries old. The princess drew her first breath in 300 years. Her eyes opened slowly, revealing irises that shifted color like oil on water. She blinked, confusion clear on her face as she tried to focus on her surroundings. Then her eyes found Marcus, and she spoke in a voice that sounded like music. The ship's translation system, primed by hours of studying the pod's language database, converted her words. "You found me." "Yes," Marcus said softly, stepping closer. "I'm Marcus Reed. You're safe now." The princess tried to sit up but faltered. The medical team moved to help, but she held up a hand. Her skin began to glow faintly as she seemed to adjust to being awake. 312 years, 4 months, 17 days, she said, reading the information from her pod systems. Longer than we expected. She looked around the medical bay, taking in the unfamiliar technology and faces with remarkable calm. "You're not from any of the worlds we knew," she said. "Your species, you've only recently reached the stars. Humanity has been traveling in space for about a century," Marcus explained. "We found records of your civilization and came to study them. We never expected to find." He gestured at her, still not quite believing this was real. "A living relic." She smiled, but there was sadness in it. "My name is Ada. I was Princess of Lumeria." She touched the pod's surface gently. "Did any others survive? Any other pods?" Marcus shook his head slowly. "We found ruins of amazing technology, but nothing else preserved like this. Though we've only explored a small part of your world so far." Ada closed her eyes for a moment, processing this. When she opened them again, they shone with determination rather than tears. "Then I must carry our legacy alone. But first," she tried to stand again, this time succeeding. "I need to understand your world. Will you teach me?" Over the next few hours, as the medical team ran their checks and Ada regained her strength, Marcus explained how humanity had developed, how they'd reached the stars, and what they knew of the current galaxy. Ada listened intently, sometimes stopping him to ask questions that made him realize just how advanced her civilization had been. "Your people developed differently than we expected," she said. "We watched your world long ago. Our scientists thought it would take you another 1,000 years to reach space. We're full of surprises," Marcus smiled. Then he noticed how Ada's hand kept moving across surfaces, leaving trails of light that faded quickly. "Are you connecting with our systems?" Ada nodded. "My people could interface with technology directly. I'm learning your language, your history." She paused, looking troubled. There's so much has changed. The stars themselves have moved. Marcus saw the weight of 3 centuries pressed down on her shoulders. "We'll help you," he said firmly. "Whatever you need to adjust, to find your place in this time, we'll help." Ada turned to him, her eyes shifting through colors he had no names for. "Thank you," she said simply. "I think I'm going to need it." Outside the medical bay window, stars streamed past as the ship moved through space. Somewhere out there, Ada's scattered people might still exist. But for now, she had to learn to live in a universe that had continued on without her, with only these strange humans to guide her. Ada stood at the ship's viewing window, her fingers tracing patterns on the control panel as she absorbed information from the computer system. 2 weeks had passed since her awakening, and she had learned more about human civilization than most people could study in years. Her ability to connect with technology still amazed the crew, even though they were getting used to seeing the soft trails of light that followed her touch. Marcus walked in with 2 cups of coffee, a drink Ada had grown quite fond of. "Found anything new?" he asked, handing her one of the cups. "Yes," she said, her eyes reflecting the starlight. "I've been comparing star charts from my time with current maps. Some of the evacuation coordinates we planned. They might still be valid." She waved her hand, and a holographic map appeared in the air. My people were supposed to scatter in 12 directions. 12 colonies, to maximize our chances of survival. The map showed glowing lines spreading out from her dead world like spokes on a wheel. But something about the display made Marcus frown. Those routes, some of them passed through what's now restricted space, areas controlled by groups that aren't exactly friendly to Earth, or to ancient alien technology, Ada added softly. She had already learned about how some human factions feared and hated anything they couldn't control. "But we have to try. My people's knowledge, their skills, they could help so many worlds if we find them." A warning light flashed on the console. "Unknown ship dropping out of faster-than-light travel," the computer announced. "Distance, 50,000 kilometers, and closing." Marcus moved to the command station, checking the readings. "That's odd. We're nowhere near any regular trade routes." He opened a channel to the bridge. "Ben, are you seeing this?" "Yes, sir." Ben's voice came back tense. "They're not responding to hails, and their energy signature doesn't match any known registry." Ada's hand pressed against the console, lights flowing from her fingers as she connected with the ship's sensors. Her face went pale. "Marcus, their ship. It's using energy patterns I recognize. Modified, hidden under newer technology, but the core, it's Lumerian." Before Marcus could respond, the ship shuddered. "Energy surge," Ben shouted through the comm. "They're trying to hack our systems." Ada's eyes widened. "No, not hack. They're trying to talk to the ship the way I do. But it's crude, forced." Her fingers danced across the console, leaving trails of bright light. "They know I'm here. They must have detected my connection to your systems." Marcus hit the ship's alert button. "All hands, battle stations. Prepare for emergency jump." He turned to Ada. "Can you block them?" "Yes, but..." She hesitated. "They're using techniques only the royal family should know. Whoever they are, they're connected to my people. But they're trying to hurt us." "Why?" Another blast rocked the ship. "Questions later," Marcus said, grabbing her arm. "We need to get to the bridge." They ran through the corridors as red alert lights flashed. Ada touched every control panel they passed, leaving trails of protective code behind her. "I'm locking down our systems," she explained as they ran. "But they're persistent, like they've been practicing for this." They reached the bridge just as the enemy ship fired again. The blast caught them at an angle, making the artificial gravity flicker. "Shields at 60%, Emma reported from her station. "They're not trying to destroy us. They want to disable us." "They want me," Ada said quietly. She stepped up to the main console, placing both hands flat on its surface. Light spread from her fingers, flowing through every display and panel on the bridge. But I've learned a few things too. The enemy ship's next attack bounced off their shields harmlessly. Ada's eyes glowed as she worked, reminding everyone that for all her human-like appearance, she was something far different. I've matched their jamming signals. We can jump now. Plot a course, Marcus ordered. Somewhere they won't expect. Ada nodded, still connected to the ship's systems. There's an old trading outpost from before the gamma burst. The radiation clouds still hide it. They won't be able to track us through that. As their ship prepared to jump, Marcus watched the enemy vessel growing larger on their screens. Why did they wait so long to find you? Why attack now? I don't know, Ada said, her voice troubled. But they felt wrong. Like they were using fragments of knowledge they didn't fully understand. She looked at Marcus, her color-shifting eyes full of worry. I think some of my people might have changed in ways we never expected. The stars blurred as their ship jumped to safety, but the mood on the bridge remained tense. They had found the first proof that Ada's people still existed, but not in the way anyone had hoped. The hunt for answers had begun, but now they were being hunted too. The marketplace on New Haven Station buzzed with life and color, but Ada saw beyond the surface chaos. Her eyes tracked patterns in the crowd that others missed, the way certain traders moved too gracefully, how some shop owners' skin caught the light at odd angles. After visiting 3 different worlds in 2 months, she had learned to spot the signs. There, she whispered to Marcus, nodding toward a flower shop. The blooms in the window sang softly, their petals glowing with stored light. Those are Lumerian crystal flowers. They only grow with special care. Marcus pretended to study a nearby stall's wares while watching the shop. After their narrow escape from the attacking ship, they had learned to be more careful. The owner? Definitely one of my people, or a descendant. Ada's eyes shifted colors as she observed the elegant woman tending the flowers. See how she hums to them. That's an old royal gardener's technique. They had found similar clues on other worlds. Pieces of Lumerian technology hidden in plain sight, cultural practices disguised as local customs, and people who were just a little too perfect in their movements. But each time they tried to make contact, their potential leads disappeared. Let me try alone this time, Ada said. She had changed her appearance slightly, dulling her skin's natural glow and changing her hair to a more human style. She might be more willing to talk to me if you're not there. Marcus didn't like it, but he nodded. Their last few attempts at contact had failed because the hidden Lumerians seemed especially wary of humans. Be careful. I'll watch from the cafe across the way. Ada walked into the flower shop, letting the door chime announce her presence. The owner looked up, and for a moment, both women froze in recognition. The shop owner's eyes widened as she saw past Ada's disguise. My lady, she whispered in the old language, dropping into a deep bow. We believed you were lost. Please, Ada said quickly, also in their ancient tongue. I'm just Ada now. What's your name? Rose, the woman said, using her adopted human name. I was too young to remember Lemuria, but my parents served in the royal gardens. She touched one of the crystal flowers, making it sing a sweet note. They taught me what they could, but so much was lost. Ada felt tears in her eyes. How many others are there? Rose looked nervous. I shouldn't. She glanced around. There are those who think we should stay hidden. The galaxy has changed. Some of our people changed with it. Not always for the better. The ones who attacked us, Ada said. Who are they? They call themselves the Pure Light. Rose's voice dropped even lower. They believe we should have fought the gamma burst, that running was cowardly. They've spent centuries gathering old technology, trying to restore what was lost. When they heard rumors of your pod being found, she shuddered. A customer entered the shop, and Rose quickly switched to speaking standard. Ada pretended to study the flowers while listening to Rose handle the sale. Through the window, she could see Marcus watching attentively from the cafe. When they were alone again, Rose touched Ada's hand. "There's a sanctuary," she said, "a hidden world where many of us live together, keeping what we can of the old ways, but also learning new ones, growing with the times. I can tell you how to find it, but," she hesitated, "you'll have to leave your human friends behind. The council won't allow them to know the location." Ada felt her heart twist. She looked across at Marcus, who had done so much to help her, who had become more than just a rescuer. "I can't abandon them. The pure light is hunting all of us now. We need to face this together." Rose studied her for a long moment. "You really are different from what the stories said about the royal family." "Maybe." She reached under the counter and pulled out a small crystal. "Take this. If you can convince the others that humans can be trusted, activate it. It will lead you to us." Suddenly, Rose stiffened. "Someone's watching. Not your friend. Others. You need to go. Now." Ada slipped the crystal into her pocket. "Thank you, Rose. Stay safe." She walked out of the shop casually, not looking back. Through her connection to the station's systems, she could sense unfamiliar energy patterns moving through the crowd. The pure light had found them again. As she joined Marcus at the cafe, she allowed herself a small smile despite the danger. Her people had survived. They had adapted, found new ways to live in this changed galaxy. Now she just had to find a way to protect both her old people and her new friends from those who wanted to drag everyone back to a past that couldn't be restored. The crystal from Rose pulsed with soft light in Ada's palm as she sat in her quarters aboard the ship. 3 days had passed since their hasty escape from New Haven Station, and the choice before her weighed heavily on her mind. The pure light forces had almost caught them this time. Only Marcus's quick thinking and her connection to the station's systems had got them away. A knock on her door broke her concentration. "Come in," she called, knowing who it would be. Marcus entered, carrying 2 steaming cups of coffee as had become their habit. His face showed the strain of the past few days. None of them had slept much since their narrow escape. "Ben picked up some unusual energy readings," he said, handing her a cup. "Might be pure light ships, might be just regular patrols. We're staying in the dust cloud for now." Ada nodded, still staring at the crystal. "I know where they are now," she said quietly. "My people. The crystal showed me. They built something beautiful, Marcus. A whole world hidden behind a cloak of artificial storms, where they kept our culture alive." She looked up at him, her eyes swirling with troubled colors. "But I can't take you there." Marcus sat down across from her, his face calm despite the weight of her words. "Because they don't trust humans. They're scared. The Pure Light faction, they didn't just reject change. They've been raiding other worlds, stealing old technology, trying to rebuild our empire. Some humans fought back, got hurt, died." She set the crystal down carefully. "The Sanctuary Worlds Council thinks all humans would try to take advantage of our knowledge if they found us." "They might be right to worry," Marcus admitted. "There are people who would try to exploit your technology, but hiding forever isn't the answer. Look how the pure light twisted themselves trying to preserve the past." The ship's lights flickered slightly as Ada connected with its systems, a habit she had when troubled. "I could go alone. Find my people. Help them understand that they don't need to hide anymore. Keep all of you safe from the pure light." "And what about you?" Marcus asked softly. "These past months, you've changed too. Grown. Would you be happy going back to being just a princess in hiding?" Before Ada could answer, alarms blared through the ship, multiple ships dropping out of light speed. Ben's voice came through the comm. "Pure light signatures. They found us." Ada and Marcus rushed to the bridge. The main screen showed 5 ships emerging from the dust cloud, their hulls gleaming with the same pearlescent sheen as Lumerian technology. But these ships looked wrong. Twisted combinations of old and new tech, beautiful forms turned into weapons. "They're hailing us," Emma reported from her station. Ada straightened her spine, every inch the princess she had been born to be. "Put them through." A face appeared on the screen, a man with the same shimmering skin as Ada, but his eyes were hard, showing none of the color-shifting warmth of natural Lumerian eyes. "Princess," he said, his voice cold, "I am Bright Star, leader of the pure light. Surrender yourself to us, and we'll let your human pets live." "You're using broken fragments of who we were to hurt people," Ada replied, her voice strong. "That's not our way. Our way died with our world," Bright Star snarled. "We're taking back what's ours. The humans are primitive, unworthy of our gifts. Come with us, help us restore our empire, or watch your new friends burn." Ada felt Marcus step up beside her, supporting her without a word. She looked at the crew, humans who had woken her, helped her, become her friends. Then she looked at Bright Star, seeing how fear of change had twisted him and his followers into something that went against everything her people had believed in. The crystal in her pocket grew warm. In that moment, she knew what she had to do. Her people needed to stop hiding, both from the future and from themselves. They needed to remember who they really were. "No," she said simply. "We were never about empire or power. We were explorers, creators, helpers. And I'm going to remind everyone of that." Her fingers flew across the console as she added, "Starting now." She sent a signal through the crystal, knowing it would reach the sanctuary world. Then she began powering up the ship's systems in a way no one had seen before. It was time to show both humans and Lumerians what they could accomplish together. And no amount of pure light was going to stop her. Light flowed from Ada's hands into the ship's systems, making the bridge glow like a newborn star. The pure light vessels hung in space before them, weapons charged and ready. But Ada wasn't afraid anymore. She knew exactly who she was and what she needed to do. "Last chance, Princess," Bright Star's cold voice came through the comm. "Join us or watch these humans die." "You've forgotten something important," Ada said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. "Our people didn't just survive by hiding. We survived by adapting, by growing, by learning from others." The ship's systems responded to her touch in ways that made the human crew gasp in wonder. Like this. Screens lit up all around the bridge as Ada connected their ship to the sanctuary world's defense network through the crystal. Dozens of hidden Lumerian ships dropped their cloaking fields, surrounding the pure light vessels. On the main screen, Rose appeared, standing in what looked like another bridge. "The Council has made their decision," Rose announced. "We will hide no longer. The pure light's actions have forced our hand." Bright Star's face twisted with rage. "Traitors. You would side with primitives over your own people. These primitives woke our princess when they could have left her sleeping," Rose replied. "They helped her when they could have feared her. They proved themselves worthy of trust through actions, not words." Ada nodded to Marcus, who had already figured out the new weapon systems she had integrated into their ship. "Surrender, Bright Star. It's over." "Never." The pure light ships opened fire, but their weapons splashed harmlessly against shields that now glowed with Lumerian energy patterns. Ada had merged human and Lumerian technology in ways neither civilization had imagined possible. The battle was brief but spectacular. The pure light ship's corrupted technology was no match for the combined strength of human adaptability and pure Lumerian systems. Within minutes, Bright Star's vessels were disabled, their crews being transported to secure holds. As the last pure light ship powered down, a new signal came through. The Sanctuary World's Council appeared on screen, their aged faces showing both worry and hope. "Princess Ada," their leader said, "you have shown us what we should have seen long ago. The time for hiding is past." Over the next few hours, Ada watched in joy as her people began revealing themselves across the galaxy. Lumerians who had been living in secret stepped forward, sharing their knowledge and skills with their neighbors. The Council opened diplomatic channels with Earth, beginning talks that would change both civilizations forever. Marcus found Ada in the observation lounge later, watching the stars. "So," he said, standing beside her, "what happens now?" Ada smiled. touching the window and making patterns of light dance across its surface. Now we build something new. Not an empire like the pure light wanted, but a bridge between worlds. She turned to face him. My people need to remember how to live in the light again, and humans need to learn that they're ready for more than they think. We can help each other. And you? Marcus asked softly. Will you go to the sanctuary world now? I'll visit, Ada said. There's much to teach and learn. But my place is out here, helping both our peoples find their way forward. She touched his hand gently, leaving a trail of starlight on his skin. Besides, I've grown rather fond of coffee and human company. Through the window, they could see ships from both civilizations beginning to work together, sharing knowledge and resources. The pure light's stolen technology was being safely dismantled, while new innovations were already emerging from human and Lumerian cooperation. You know, Marcus said, when we found your pod, I thought we were discovering history. Instead, we were helping create the future. Ada's eyes shifted through happy colors as she watched a group of human children on a nearby ship trying to learn how to make crystal flowers sting. The best kind of history is the kind that lights the way forward, she said. My people had to sleep for a while, but now we're all awake, and there are so many new dreams to build. The stars streamed past the window as ships from both civilizations moved together through space. Somewhere out there, the dead world where Ada had slept still turned beneath its radiation-scarred sky. But she didn't need to look back anymore. The future was so much brighter than the past, and she had a feeling the best stories were just beginning.